family and your son's disability. And this is for my course that I'm taking called Family and Professional Partnerships uh, in Special Ed.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is, first of all, just can you give me some background about things? What's the nature, for example, of the exceptionality of your son, Daniel?
Okay. So his primary diagnosis is autism, and he has comorbid diagnoses of obsessive compulsive disorder,
Mhm.
anxiety disorder, mood disorder, and ADHD.
It's quite a lot. And
Yeah,
you
it
said
is.
something about also later on. How old is he?
He is 34.
He's 34. And later on, after high school and everything, there was a car accident, right?
Yes.
And
So he
what did?
also, yeah, he suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, what's the extent of the disability? I mean, what kind of functioning does he have? Where is he right now? And what kind of services do you have? And then we'll talk
Okay.
about high school also, because what I'm doing is I'm working backwards.
Okay.
We work with kids that are from K through 12,
Right.
and we work with them through school. And then after they graduate, you kind of lose track of what
Mm-hmm.
happens to them. So I think by working backwards, we can find out some things that are pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so as far as the extent of his disability, he's considered to be, as far as the spectrum of autism,
Mm-hmm.
moderate, not high functioning, although he has some verbal ability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at the time they were using GAF scores,
Right.
the Global Assessment of Functioning, and that score showed that he was severely impaired
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be in the community and to be able to function in society and to take care of himself. So his functioning is kind of interesting
Right.
because he presents more functional than he actually is.
Well, I met him. He's a wonderful boy. And
Yeah,
you know,
he's
if you
nice.
really, when you get to know him a little bit, it takes a little while for you to go, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
can
you
see
start
that. He's very
observing more.
verbal and everything like that.
Yeah.
What about his health? Um,
He actually has quite a bit of health problems.
oh, okay.
So unfortunately, he had a tick bite, so he's allergic to beef, which that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're autistic and you love to eat hamburgers,
Right.
that's a really, really big
I didn't
deal.
know that that would be something where we have a tick bite and it
Yep.
really?
Yeah, Lone
Wow.
Star tick.
Is
Yeah,
that right?
because we're from the South originally. So he does. He has this allergy. He also has a lot of other allergies,
Uh-huh.
food allergies, um, and these are to the extent that he will go in anaphylaxis. So that's a problem
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't recognize the symptoms
Right.
until he's full blown going into anaphylactic shock. So that's one of his health problems. He has a propensity for a very low white blood cell count.
Mm-hmm.
They can't figure out if he has any kind of chronic disease that's creating that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had some surgeries that have also compromised.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about immediate family members? You're married.
I'm married.
And you have a daughter.
Yes.
You have a granddaughter.
And a granddaughter. Yes.
What was that like? Who makes most of the decisions when it comes to Daniel? And what are the relationship for all those years with your daughter too? How was that?
Well, I have guardianship. I have guardianship over Daniel for, it's called guardianship of the person.
Right.
So there are two different kinds of guardianship. One deals with the state and with their money. I don't have that particular guardianship, but I have it of his person.
Right.
So I am his guardian, and I make decisions about his health care, things that are in his best interest
Right.
for his overall life. Yeah.
What about the interactions between the sister and the brother?
Yeah.
Growing up, how was that?
Growing up,
Yeah,
I think it was
younger.
difficult for her because I think she, as I recall, really didn't believe anything was wrong with him. That he
Right,
was just
right.
being difficult
I imagine.
and misbehaved.
I imagine because when I met him too, for that short period of time, I think what happens is you meet him and you think, well, there's nothing wrong with him. He's
Yeah.
articulate and stuff, right? Was
Yeah,
that?
but he wasn't when he was younger.
Oh,
He wasn't.
okay.
I mean, we were talking about the family videos
Yeah.
that we have, and the meltdowns and the screaming and that kind
That
of
he
thing.
had.
That,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that he had. So when we got this really firm diagnosis, she kind of went in denial about it for a
When
while.
did that happen? When did we see that?
He was he was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder when he was pretty young,
Hmm.
around 3 or 4.
Okay.
And they told me they didn't want to give him a diagnosis of autism at the time. Why, I don't know. But so when he got the formal diagnosis, he was probably about 11, 12 years old.
Now, just to get some more background so that I get a good foundation for our working together.
Sure.
What about your husband? How's that? Have you been married before?
Right, I was married
Yeah.
before. So the person I'm married to now is not his
Yeah.
biological father. It's his stepfather.
How's that dynamic?
I think for the most part it's pretty good.
Mhm.
I think it's a very difficult situation
Sure,
for someone
absolutely.
when you have these integrated families, someone coming in with a disabled child,
Right.
to all of a sudden you're taking on an awful lot of responsibility and you have to learn really quickly
Right.
what this is all about. I've had Ben since he was a baby, right?
Right,
And so
right.
we've had all this time. I've grown with Ben as Ben's disability
Yeah.
manifests itself. I'm right there going parallel, and then someone comes into it at some point.
Well,
It's
and
kind
you're
of hard. It's hard.
newlyweds, and
Yep.
that's all the pressures of that, and then you have a child with
Yeah.
with disability. Well, did your husband, Daniel's dad, what was that dynamic like? And you don't have to go into real deep about that. Was he a help, a hindrance?
He was no help.
No help.
Actually, he didn't believe there was anything wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very fundamental Christian that believed, spare the rod, spoil the child. He believed in spanking a lot.
But he
so
knew
that's
that
what
he
it-
had a disability.
No, he did not.
He did not.
He did not believe that under any circumstances.
So he was in denial about it.
Yeah, I guess you could
I
say
mean, it
that.
must have made it very difficult for you, really,
It
seriously.
was
'cause
really difficult.
You were a single mom, not only bringing up a child, but bringing up a child with a disability.
Right.
Wow. So, those are potential stressors in a family, of course, and not just potential, but actual stressors in a
Right.
family through all that. And in school, how were they? The K through 12 situation, your experiences with that. I'm sure there are both bad and good ones. Can you just give me a little bit of an idea of those that were helpful? What kind of communication skills that you found that they were really, really important to you, and how they because you have to have trust in people. You have to have trust with people that you're working with in the situation.
Right.
How much they understood and didn't. Just kind of a general idea about that.
Well, early on, this was just kind of coming to the forefront with autism.
Mm-hmm.
There were no special ed teachers that were specific to dealing with people with autism.
What year roughly we're talking about?
Well, if I start when he was in preschool, he went to a Montessori preschool, and she was not trained in special ed, although Montessori was devised for children with
my son
disadvantaged
was in Montessori,
children.
as a matter of fact, too, for a while there.
Yeah.
It's a great program,
It's a great
but
program.
I can see where it would not be at that
Right.
time.
They didn't have
what you
that.
needed.
I mean, she didn't have the skill set to deal with that. And then I'm trying to remember. Let me see. Kindergarten. I was told at the end of the first year that it had been a year and that he did not fit into. I'm trying to remember what the principal said. She goes, "Well, it's been a year and he still doesn't fit into anything."
That must have been really horrible.
Yeah, it kind of was. But so I held him back a year in kindergarten to see if we were going to catch up developmentally.
Right.
And then as he progressed into first grade, he had a really good teacher, and that was a teacher that had come out of Vermont. I think that their system up there was a little more advanced than the one that we were in the South. And so she had a better understanding, better communication, was better at helping him manage behaviors or addressing them.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we got a different teacher.
So there's a real wide gamut of professional competency.
Yes,
To say
that's
the
a good
least
way to
on
put
that,
it.
right? And
Yeah.
some trained, some not. And you went through a whole period of time there where it was relatively a new kind of field in a
Right.
sense,
I mean,
right?
they only had emotional disorder class. They in behavior disorders. So, I mean, I think that there was nothing addressing the autism. He was
Right.
kind of thrown in with all the other kids that didn't behave or who had emotional issues. But the teacher after that was really bad, and her communication skills were bad, and
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand his disability. And then the teacher after that was very good.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
that's in
and we kind
different.
of just kept rolling along. Yeah.
Are they different school districts we're talking about
No,
too,
this
or
was all within
all
one
within
school
one?
district.
Yeah.
I actually had him moved out of our district elementary to work with another teacher that I knew was a behavior analyst and specialist.
So you're involved. You're there,
Always.
and you make the decisions concerning Daniel.
Well, ultimately, yes.
Yeah, when it comes to it.
I didn't like it, but yes.
Well, then I mean, so what's the? We're getting close to the end because I just want to give a flavor of
Sure.
of what we're doing here, and also to get to know you a little bit better in this situation and all, and Daniel and things, and so what's? Give me. He's now where is he now? He graduated, and where is he
He's
now?
graduated, and he lives in community living and goes to a day program.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about
Right.
that earlier. But
And he goes to a day program, and he is in community living, and his provider is Bittersweet Farms.
Okay. Looking back, what would you say is the most important? One of the most important things, communication, of course, I think is pretty high. If I understand you correctly, to paraphrase and summarize this, would you say what would be the most important thing from K through 12, for example, and to help those people now that you're looking back, those people that might be in your situation? What would you say to somebody like me who's going to be someone who's going to be an intervention specialist, or someone else working with someone with an exceptionality? What would you think is some of the
advice to a parent?
Advice both to the parent and a professional.
Okay. Well, to the parent, I would say his kindergartner teacher, who I will never forget, who was a wonderful person, said something that really stuck with me and really kind of kept me on track. And she said, "You're going to have to advocate for him because nobody will advocate for him the way that you can."
Right.
And that turned out to be very, very true. So from a parental standpoint, I think parents need to understand. I think a lot of times they kind of want to just, you get tired after a while. You just want someone to take the reins, and you want to break.
Yep.
But I think that you also have to realize that you still have to stay involved on a level that is helping your child. You have to be realistic about what your child cannot do, what their disabilities are, and you always, what you want to do is keep them engaged, support them, and help them down the road. So that's for parents. As far as for educators, I think that one of the best things I could tell them would be things are not always as they appear. Don't make assumptions upon your first glance or first sight of a person. Listen to caretakers, caregivers, and the people who are spending the most time with your student, and get lots of feedback. That doesn't mean that parents always have all the answers, but they have a lot of information, and you need to be able to take that information and utilize it so you can come up with strategies and plans that will ultimately help.
Take that information from the parent, get the background information from it, find out where all kinds of resources are.
Correct.
You know, both state, local.
Yeah, because there are all kinds now, especially in the school systems now.
And then have that partnership so that you can keep the child in the best possible state of mind and family. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Julia. We'll work together. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.